why don't we transition into more marriage stuff? You did a couple bills on the no-fault divorce. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and what happened with those bills?
Yeah, the church, especially in the last decade or so, we've talked a lot about marriage and the sanctity of marriage and traditional marriage. And I always like to say I think heterosexuals have done more to damage the institution of marriage and the foundation of the family in the last 40, 50 years than same-sex marriage ever will. And I think that all goes back to the advent of no-fault divorce in the 1970s. And ironically, it was Ronald Reagan who signed the first no-fault divorce law in California when he was governor there. Years later, in the 90s, he said that was one of his biggest regrets in his public life that he ever had, was starting that. Because what was meant to help alleviate a burdensome process, a tough process, a very hostile process, actually had unintended consequences that made it even worse. And in fact, in 2010, New York was the last state to go completely away from a fault-based system to add some kind of no-fault divorce. And the leading organization fighting that was NOW, the National Organization of Women, because in the 4 decades since no-fault divorce, they had seen what that had done to women over and over again. And Jeff Morgan and I have talked a lot about this issue. To me, it's an issue. There's no other contract really that we enter into in our society where one person can unilaterally end it without any kind of repercussion or consequence, right? We see that all the time. It just kind of goes against our due process rights. And the more we look into it, we're not aware of any divorce filing has ever been denied for a unilateral divorce. And if you can never offer any kind of rebuttal or ask for any kind of relief or remedy from the court to argue against what is being taken away from you, sometimes that's your that's the marriage relationship, sometimes that's your kids, sometimes that's your entire life. You don't have any way to argue against that or fight back against that in a court of law. We don't have anything else like that in our legal system where one side always wins. You never have a situation where the plaintiff wins every single time that they ever go into court. And so there's so many anomalies with the no-fault divorce system, and it's led to a huge breakdown in our family. If you look at the statistics since 1970, the increase in crime, the increase in poverty, the increase in depression, the increase in all of these different societal factors. And so I'll put this plug in too. When somebody tells you I'm an economic conservative and I'm not a social conservative, we need to quit worrying about that. I'm going to tell you, if you don't do the social stuff right, you'll never get the economic stuff right. And so you've got to focus on that. And I think there is a place for making sure that when the state says something, hey, we're going to go to a no-fault divorce system, if you've seen time and time again how it's actually injured society and hurt our society more than we thought it would, then it's only right for us to step back and say, we made a mistake. Let's go back to the system that was in place for 100, 120 years and go that way. So we're going to probably come back to that next session to hopefully end no-fault divorce. As far as I am aware, we're the only state looking to go back now that all 50 states have gone to a no-fault system. There's a lot of opposition. There's a lot of frustration and anger over proposing that, but I think it's the right thing to do if we're truly worried about the traditional family and preserving the family.